Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me and thank you for being interested in our work. I am the member at the European Court of Auditors who was responsible for our recent special report Sustainable Water Use in Agriculture CAP funds more likely to promote greater rather than more efficient water use. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you today, but it is a pleasure for me to tell you about the key findings from our report. Climate change is increasingly causing more extreme weather. We get more droughts and forest fires than we used to. One of the less visible consequences of changing weather is that fresh water is getting scarcer in the EU. Agriculture is responsible for a quarter of water abstraction in the EU. Resource efficiency gains have led to a 28% decrease in EU agricultural water use since 1990. But even with that 28% reduction, pressures remain at unsustainable levels. The 2000 EU Water Framework Directive set a target for achieving good quantitative status for all EU water bodies. Some member states have made more progress than others. However, even the Commission recognizes that the implementation of the directive is significantly delayed. Before we go on, I want to point out an important thing. We didn't look at the water pollution caused by agriculture. Our report is about the impact of agriculture on water quantity, and we looked at the EU level. So what did we find? Our main message is that support for agriculture has not been consistently aligned with water policy objectives. What do I mean by that? I mean that EU policies in their current form can't ensure that farmers use water sustainably. Now, there are many different factors behind this, and I want to talk about three of them. First, I will discuss authorization and pricing policies. Second, I will talk about the impact of direct payments, and then I will talk about rural development. First, on authorization and pricing policies, the key point is that EU policy on sustainable water use contains lots of exceptions for farmers. The Water Framework Directive does include safeguards against unsustainable water use. For example, member states have to have systems in place for authorization of water abstraction. They also have to have water pricing policies in place. These policies should ensure adequate cost recovery from water users. Now, this water pricing system is an extension of the polluter pays principle, although in this case it might be more accurate to call it user pays principle. You use the water, you pay for it. However, this does not always happen in practice. Member states have introduced some incentivizing pricing mechanisms, but cost recovery is lower in agriculture than in other sectors. EU water policy allows many derogations for agriculture, and member states have made use of that. Water for agricultural use generally remains cheaper, and many member states still do not recover the cost in agriculture as they do for other sectors. Our second important finding is that the EU's direct payment scheme doesn't give farmers any real incentive to use water efficiently. The CAP makes up about a third of the EU budget, and the largest single category of agricultural support is direct payments to farmers. None of the conditions attached to those payments give farmers an effective incentive to use water sustainably. We actually found that some EU rules can make water shortages worse. For example, we found that voluntary coupled support can be used in water-stressed areas to help farmers produce water-intensive crops like rice, nuts, or fruit and vegetables. In other words, you can use EU funding in dry areas to help you grow up crops which make the lack of water worse. Voluntary coupled support is used in every member state except Germany, and we found that several countries fund water-intensive crops in water-stressed areas. The EU does have a tool available which could discourage unsustainable water use. Cross-compliance links payments to environmental obligations. For example, farmers can't receive EU money if they take water from natural sources without proper authorization. The problem is that cross-compliance does not apply to all CAP support nor to all farmers. Moreover, none of the countries we audited did any comprehensive checks on whether farmers are taking water without a proper authorization. The Commission's post-2020 CAP proposal went a step further by including an explicit reference to the Water Framework Directive concerning controls on water abstraction. This is encouraging. In a future CAP, it could lead to better application of the rule. The last of the three things I want to emphasize is that rural development funds could do more to promote sustainable water use. As time goes on, technology gets more efficient, so we invest in things like modern wastewater treatment equipment and better irrigation systems. We can help farmers to use water more sustainably. However, member states have a lot of freedom when deciding what to support, and we found that the projects they support don't often contribute to efficient water use. Actually, we found that projects which could reduce water use are less common than projects which increase pressure on water resources. What is causing this problem? EU policy on investments in irrigation projects allow multiple interpretations and exceptions. That means that the EU risks funding irrigation projects going against the Water Framework Directive objectives. Although here we also found a bright spot. The new CAP doesn't support investments in irrigation projects if they are not consistent with the Water Framework Directive. Based on what we found, we make a number of recommendations to the European Commission. We recommend that the Commission should require member states to give good reasons for each instance where they apply exemptions for agriculture. We recommend that all CAP payments should be linked to requirements on using water sustainably, and we recommend that the Commission should ensure that EU-funded projects help achieve the Water Framework Directive objectives. So that's a very brief introduction to what we found in our report, in our audit. I thank you once again for inviting me, and I wish you a very successful conference with fruitful discussions, and thank you very much.